Now that you are religious, do you believe that? Do you believe that that's the best way for a person not to touch their spouse until they're in the yichud room?
So I got married that way, and I grew up secular and I became observant. So I dated secularly, normally. And when I became observant, I started dating this way, and I ended up marrying my husband, and we didn't touch until, Mazel Tov, broke the glass. He held my hand and I was like, oh, and I was melting.
Like, wow, he needs some lotion.
But it was better than a first kiss. It was like you married a human being that you never touched, and they held your hand. And I was like, oh, okay. I believe that physical touch is very confusing. So the 5-date challenge just says, hey, don't touch for the first 5 dates. If you like them and they like you, we've got 2 confirmations. Okay, whatever happens, happens. Take it slow. Don't go crazy. But the physical aspect of, I feel comfortable. I feel comfortable with you, but hey, I don't like you, or our values don't match up. Like, who cares that you're physically comfortable? It's meaningless for the future.
Right, but at a certain point, let's say you've confirmed that you have that real connection, that deep connection. Like I grew up in a rabbi's house, so I saw a ton of divorce and broken marriages, and there was always like that small percentage that like it was a physical chemistry thing, and had they been physical before they got married, that probably could have been avoided. So
a lack of,
yeah,
maybe. I mean, look, of all the things that we could work on in our life, the physical chemistry is something that we could have a lot of fun playing with. Like teenagers do that all the time. That's how they, and we're not going there. Anyway, that's how they experiment or they figure it out. But you could really work on so many things. But if I don't like your personality to a core, that's a really big issue. Like physical touch, we can shift that, like we can create that. But yes, it can be a problem. But if we look at physical intimacy as like an issue overall compared to values, alignment, who we are, life's dreams, supporting each other, I think that it's a much lower risk.
I just to play devil's advocate, because I agree that it can be confusing, but on the flip side, the opposite can be true, I guess, from this perspective of the man, where you're being driven by what you think is romance, love, and this like infatuation period, but if you're not touching, then you put all the eggs in this basket, you pedestal it as if it's going to be this thing. And then if it's disappointing or if it doesn't live up to expectations, somehow a lot of these other things, you realize we were just blinded by physical desire and we're confused by that. And had you known about the physical chemistry before, and just playing devil's advocate, is there a double-edged sword to that at a certain point?
Can I add to that devil's advocate for a second? Because I came from I guess when I was starting dating, it was more shidduch dating, from dating, more yeshivish, quote unquote.
Yeah.
So in that world, in the much more yeshivish world, unfortunately, because like you don't have access to girls and until you're married, if someone comes to the Rebbe, if someone comes to the Meshkiach, I'm struggling with X, with Y, the solution is marriage. So marriage kind of becomes this like tool to be able to have sex in a kosher way, in a way that God is not upset with. And that could be extremely dangerous for who you end up choosing to spend the rest of your life with.
So the good news is I'm not a rabbi, so I don't have to face all of these things. But as somebody who works very closely in this entire area, the reason I have what I call the 5-date challenge and no touching for the first 5 dates is you get to make that choice. My rule is first 5 dates, and then we don't have to actually, not that I don't have to deal with it, but you get free will, you have free choice to manage the relationship the way that you want to manage it. So I think that try to make sure that the values are aligned, and then you can take it from there, right? Like I understand the concern. I hear the concern. I think there's much more risk, and the greater risk is now we were physically intimate and I really like you and you dumped me. And now I'm brokenhearted and now I feel like I'm divorced even though I was never married, and now I have to go find somebody else and I didn't even get the benefits of marriage and I have all the detriments of everything that happened. And by the way, when I go to get married and I'm with my spouse, I might still be thinking about you. And I think that is an enormous, enormous risk to take, where you're like, well, it's been better before. I mean, this is all right. I mean, I guess I'm married and I got a family and I got kids. So like, hey, we're okay. But like, it's been better. Like who wants to have that baggage? And I think that psychological, emotional baggage, which is probably more going to be on the woman's side than the man's side because you guys forget 30 seconds after something happens in life, it's fine.
It doesn't take that long, but yeah.
Right. Exactly. Okay. So it's forgotten even before it
30
happens. It's forgotten even before it happens. So, but for a woman, it's a huge risk. It's a huge risk.
Right.
And for men, the truth is like, you're not a better human being because you've, had all these experiences.
For sure not.
Yeah.
And
Having been physical before you got married, did you feel insane going to your chuppah? Like,
That's a great question.
Like, because my wife and I also, like, we were both less religious, and then when we got married, we were like more religious. Anyway, but like, yeah, there were definitely questions of like, are we out of our minds? Like, how did you like cope with that?
So every other way of dating that I had tried did not lead to my human being. This was the first time that it had actually led to my human being. And I was like, okay, like, this is okay. We're going to figure it out. I think there needs to be an amount of sexual attraction there, obviously, and chemistry. And the way that you create the tension, the sexual tension between a couple, is by holding off. If you look at things like, Kama Sutra, et cetera, and there's many, Tantra and whatever, you can go into different things. Yeah. There's many things that talk about holding back in order to build what will be when you are together. So I think that there's a certain something that's there, but I also had realistic expectations of like when you get a new boyfriend and you start to have physical intimacy. So even if it's amazing at the beginning, so first of all, like the only where to go from up is down. So that's a problem. But if it's not amazing and it's okay or good enough, then you have your whole lifetime to build it up and to get to wherever you need it to be. And you can potentially go from good to great to like, woohoo, and keeping it kosher here, but having a good time.
Well, you actually see it after marriage if you practice family purity, taharat mishpacha. You recreate the sense of newness, dating every month, every time. That's the whole mechanism by which you create a certain recreation of what it was like to be together again for the first time. Like, and you can see the benefits of that in that practice where people say that's crazy, but in the restraint, in creating that tension is where that is. It's actually not. It's not in. It's not like in being in the act of sex or whatever that is. I mean, the buildup to that is just as essential, if not more, than like any experience. But certainly with something as important as intimacy.
Did you because I was wondering about this. You obviously set up people who are totally religious. Mm-hmm. Did you, now that you are religious, have any qualms setting up people that will not be keeping Jewish purity laws?
So I think that everybody has their own life path and we all have free will, right? So my goal is not to make your will my will. Mm-hmm. My goal is to do my job in the world and be the best human being I can be. And your job is to do that as well. And everybody has their path and we don't know where everybody's going to land. So my job is just to bring the right people together. The life choices that they make, that's their free will. It's like at the end of my life, when I go before God, and if God would say like, oh, but what about your children? I'd be like, you ask them when they're dead, right?
I will ask them.
Ask me. Ask me. Did I live up to who I was supposed to be? Yes. Check. Good. So setting up a couple who's not going to observe family purity or Shabbat or anything that I particularly believe in, that's not my mission in life. My mission in life is to bring two people that belong together and help them to build the life that they want to build. How they're going to do that, what they're going to do, that's on them. They need to do that. My job is just to get the foundation and the roots of it started.
Got it. Mm-hmm.
Even for polyamorous couples, that's season 3 of the Matchmaker.
Okay, so I do, yeah.
We draw the line somewhere.
We're not compatible because they're not really into
That's about finding your people. No. But you're not a rabbi, but I think, Dovie, you found your rabbi, okay? These are the best answers you're going to get across the board.
I'm up to my neck in rabbis.
It's your life. Are you kidding me? It's your life.